The rain stung my face like 1,000 tiny betrayals, each drop a reminder of the lie I'd been living. I stood frozen on the Brooklyn sidewalk, the crumpled letter in my hand bleeding ink as the storm raged on. I was just a bet to him those words clawed at my chest, shredding the love I thought I'd found. 3 months ago, I was Ethan Carter, a 24-year-old barista with dreams bigger than my paycheck, sketching cityscapes in a worn notebook during breaks at the coffee shop. Williamsburg buzzed with artists and dreamers, and I fit right in, my heart open to the world. That's when Lucas Hayes walked in tall, with a smirk that could unravel anyone, and eyes that seemed to see straight through me. He ordered a flat white, lingered at the counter, and by the end of my shift, he had my number. Lucas was everything I wasn't: confident, wealthy, untouchable. He was a finance bro, the kind who owned the room without trying. And I was the shy artist who'd never left New York. Our first date was at a rooftop bar overlooking Manhattan, the skyline glittering like a promise. He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear, and said, "You're not like anyone I've ever met, Ethan." I believed him. I fell hard. We spent weeks tangled in each other, late-night walks through Prospect Park, stolen kisses in dive bars, his hand brushing mine as we shared secrets under the stars. He told me about his strict family, how they'd never accept him being gay. And I opened up about my own, how my dad left when I came out at 16, how my mom worked double shifts to keep us afloat. Lucas seemed to understand. He made me feel seen, chosen. But the letter in my hand told a different story. I'd found it in his apartment, tucked in a drawer I wasn't supposed to open. It was from his friend. "Max, you actually pulled it off. Man, bet you couldn't make the barista fall for you in a month. You win $500 in bragging rights. Don't let him find out. LOL." The words hit like a punch, each one stripping away the moments I cherished. I was a game. A cruel, calculated game. I left his apartment without a word, the letter clutched in my fist. And now here I was, drowning in the rain and my own stupidity. How could I have been so blind? The signs were there as sudden cancellations. The way his friends snickered when I was around. The hesitation in his eyes when I said, "I love you," last week. I thought it was fear. Maybe vulnerability. It was guilt. The street blurred as tears mixed with rain. I didn't know where to go. My apartment was too far. And the thought of facing my roommate, Sarah, with her endless optimism, made my stomach churn. I stumbled toward the subway, my sneakers squelching, when a sharp pain tore through my chest. Not heartbreak, something real. Physical. My breath caught. My vision swam. And the world tilted. I don't remember falling, but I remember the pavement, cold and unforgiving, and a stranger's voice calling out, "Hey, you okay?" Hands pulled me up, strong but gentle, and I blinked into the face of a man in navy scrubs. His name tag reading Noah, RN. His brown eyes were steady, concerned. Nothing like the calculating gaze I'd grown used to. "You're shaking," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "Let's get you out of this rain." Noah half carried me to a nearby diner, its neon sign buzzing faintly. He sat me in a booth, ordered coffee, and slid a dry jacket over my shoulders. "What happened?" he asked, not prying, just present. I couldn't speak. The letter was still in my hand, now a soggy mess. He didn't push, just waited, his presence like an anchor in the storm. I was an idiot. I finally choked out. I thought he loved me. The words spilled, raw and jagged, and Noah listened. He didn't offer platitudes or try to fix it. He just nodded, his hand resting lightly on mine, warm against my cold skin. "You're not an idiot," he said softly. "You trusted someone. That's not a weakness." The diner's warmth seeped into me, and for the first time that night, I felt like I could breathe. Noah told me he was a nurse at Brooklyn General, just off a 12-hour shift. He didn't have to be here, didn't have to care, but he did. And in that moment, with the rain still pounding outside and my heart in pieces, I realized something. Kindness from a stranger could feel more real than the love I'd chased for months. But the pain in my chest wasn't just heartbreak. It came again, sharper, and Noah's eyes narrowed. "Ethan, you don't look good. I'm taking you to the hospital." I tried to protest, but my words slurred, and the world dimmed again. The next thing I knew, I was on a stretcher, lights flashing above me, Noah's voice steady in my ear. "Stay with me, Ethan. You're going to be okay." His hand gripped mine, a lifeline in the chaos. And as the ambulance doors closed, I clung to the one truth I could trust. This stranger, this nurse, was saving me in ways I didn't yet understand. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear, a sharp contrast to the diner's warmth. I lay on a stiff bed in the ER, the beeping of machines drilling into my skull. Noah was still there, his scrubs rumpled, but his presence steady, like he'd made a silent vow not to leave me. "You've got a mild arrhythmia," the doctor said. Her voice clipped as she scanned my chart. "Likely stress-induced, but we're keeping you overnight for observation." Stress. The word felt like a cruel understatement. My heart wasn't just racing from Lucas's betrayal, it was breaking. And now it was trying to kill me. Noah pulled a chair close to my bed. "You scare me out there," he said, his tone light, but his eyes serious. "Mind telling me what happened before you collapsed?" I stared at the ceiling, the letters' words echoing in my head. I didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to make it real again. But Noah's quiet patience pulled the truth from me. I told him about Lucas, the bet, the way I'd poured my heart into someone who saw me as a prize to be won. My voice cracked as I described the letter, the way it mocked everything I'd felt. Noah listened, his jaw tightening at the worst parts. But he didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "That guy's an asshole," he said bluntly, and I laughed despite myself. The sound weak, but real. "You don't deserve that, Ethan," he continued. "No one does. But you're stronger than you think. You're still here, still fighting." His words were simple, but they landed like a lifeline. I wanted to believe him, but the weight of Lucas's betrayal felt like it would crush me. The night stretched on, and Noah stayed. He told me about his life growing up in Queens, coming out to his supportive but chaotic family, and choosing nursing because he wanted to make a difference. His stories were a distraction, a tether to something beyond my pain. When he talked about his patients, his eyes lit up, and I saw a man who carried others' burdens without complaint. By morning, the doctors cleared me to go home, but I didn't want to leave. Not because of the hospital, but because of Noah. He'd given me something Lucas never had, genuine care. No strings attached. as he handed me his number, in case you need to talk. I felt a flicker of hope. Fragile but real. Back at my apartment, Sarah was waiting, her eyes wide with worry. Ethan, what the hell happened? She demanded, pulling me into a hug. I told her everything, the words spilling out between sobs. She cursed Lucas, threatened to key his car, and then made me tea, her way of fixing what she could. But the world outside my apartment wasn't done with me. A text from Lucas came that afternoon. Ethan, where are you? We need to talk. My stomach twisted. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to delete his number and pretend he didn't exist. But another part, the part that still ached for answers, needed to face him. I met Lucas at a cafe near his apartment, the same one where we'd had our first coffee date. He looked the same, polished, untouchable, but his eyes were guarded. I can explain, he started, but I cut him off, sliding the letter across the table. His face paled. It wasn't like that, he stammered. The bet was stupid, but I fell for you, Ethan. I swear. His words sounded rehearsed, like lines from a script he hoped I'd buy. You fell for me, I said, my voice shaking with anger. Or you just didn't want to lose. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back, the memory of Noah's steady grip grounding me. Lucas's excuses unraveled half-truths about his friends, his insecurities, his fear of coming out fully. But none of it erased the truth. He'd played with my heart for sport. I left the cafe with my head held higher than I expected, but the ache lingered. Back home, I stared at Noah's number, my thumb hovering over the call button. I wasn't ready, not yet, but his kindness had planted a seed, a reminder that I deserved more than being someone's game. That night, I sketched for the first time in weeks, my pencil tracing the outline of a rainy street, a diner's glow, and a hand reaching out. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The days after confronting Lucas blurred into a haze of coffee shifts and sleepless nights. I'd see his face in every customer who walked into the shop, hear his voice in the hum of the espresso machine. But worse than the memories was the silencino texts. No calls, just the ghost of a love that never existed. Sarah tried to pull me out of it, dragging me to art galleries and karaoke nights. But my heart wasn't in it. My sketches grew darker, jagged lines of broken cityscapes, reflecting the chaos inside me. Yet Noah's number sat on my nightstand, a scrap of paper I couldn't bring myself to touch. Calling him felt like admitting I needed help, and I wasn't ready to be that vulnerable again. A week later, I ran into Noah by chance, or maybe Fatida Bodega near the hospital. He was buying energy drinks, his scrubs wrinkled from another long shift. Ethan, he said, his face lighting up. You look okay. The question hung between us, and I managed a weak smile. Getting there. I lied. He invited me for coffee, and I said yes before I could overthink it. We ended up at a tiny shop in Bed-Stuy, the kind with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. Noah talked about his patient's a kid who'd drawn him a picture, an elderly woman who called him her grandson, and I found myself laughing. Really laughing. For the first time in days. You're good at this, I said, stirring my latte. Making people feel normal. He shrugged, his cheeks flushing. It's just listening. Ethan, you'd be surprised how much it matters. His words hit deeper than I expected. stirring memories of Lucas's half-hearted attention, always distracted by his phone or his friends. Noah didn't push me to talk about Lucas, but I did anyway. I told him about the confrontation, the way Lucas's excuses fell flat, how I'd walked away but still felt tethered to the pain. Noah's eyes softened, but he didn't pity me. "You're not defined by what he did," he said. "You get to decide who you are now." His words stuck with me, like a melody I couldn't shake. I started sketching again. Not just angry scribbles, but real scenes: people in the park, the bodega cat, Noah's hands holding a coffee cup. Art had always been my escape, but now it felt like a bridge, leading me somewhere new. One night, Sarah found me sketching and grinned. "You're back," she said, like she'd been waiting for this. She suggested I show my work at a local gallery's open call, something I'd always been too scared to try. "What's the worst that can happen?" she said. "You're already surviving Lucas." I sent in my portfolio, half expecting rejection. But a week later, I got an email. My sketches were accepted for a group show. The news felt like a crack in the clouds, letting light through. I texted Noah, my fingers trembling. "Got into an art show. Wanna come?" His reply was instant. "Hell yes. Proud of you." The night of the show, I stood in the gallery, surrounded by my sketches framed on white walls. Strangers milled around, murmuring about my work. And for once, I didn't feel invisible. Noah arrived, his smile brighter than the gallery lights. "These are incredible," he said, studying a sketch of the diner where we'd met. "You've got a gift, Ethan." His presence steadied me. But the night took a turn when I saw a familiar face in the crowd: Lucas. He stood by a painting, his arm around someone new, his laugh cutting through the room. My chest tightened, the old pain flaring. But Noah's hand found mine, grounding me. "You've got this," he whispered. "He doesn't own you." I nodded, squeezing his hand, and turned away from Lucas. For the first time, I felt the weight of his betrayal lift. Just a little. The gallery wasn't just a showcase site, it was a declaration. I was more than a bet, more than a broken heart. And with Noah beside me, I was starting to believe it. The gallery show was a high I rode for days, but Lucas's presence lingered like a bruise. Seeing him with someone else shouldn't have hurt. Not after everything. But it did. It wasn't lovey, it was the reminder of how easily he'd moved on, while I was still piecing myself together. Noah became a constant in my life. Not in a loud, demanding way, but quietly. Like a song you don't realize you're humming until it's stuck in your head. We'd meet for coffee, or he'd text me after a rough shift, sharing stories that made me laugh or ache. He never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. But his presence was reshaping me, softening the edges Lucas had left jagged. One evening, we walked through Coney Island, the boardwalk alive with summer's last gasp. The air smelled of salt and fried dough, and Noah's laughter rang out as he tried and failed to win me a stuffed bear at a carnival game. "I save lives for a living, but I can't aim for shit," he joked, handing me a consolation keychain instead. I tucked it in my pocket, a small treasure I didn't know I'd needed. As we sat on the beach, the waves whispering secrets to the shore, I told him about my dad, how his silence after I came out still stung, how I'd spent years trying to prove I was enough. Noah listened, his shoulder brushing mine. "You don't have to prove anything," he said, You're already enough. Ethan, just as you are. His words cracked something open in me. A vulnerability I hadn't let myself feel since Lucas. I wanted to lean into Noah, to let his warmth fill the spaces Lucas had hollowed out. But fear held me back. What if I was wrong again? What if I was just chasing another illusion? The next day, I got a call from the gallery. Someone wanted to buy one of my sketches. The one of the diner. It was a small sale, but it felt like a victory. A step toward a life I'd only dreamed of. I told Noah over dinner at a taco truck, and he raised his soda in a toast. To Ethan Carter, artist and badass, he said, grinning. I blushed, but his pride felt like sunlight. Then Lucas texted again, saw your art. It's good. Can we talk? The message hit like a stone in my stomach. I showed it to Noah, expecting him to brush it off. But his face darkened. You don't owe him anything, he said, his voice firm. But if you need closure, I'll be here when you're done. I met Lucas at a park, the same one where we'd once kissed under the stars. He looked nervous, his usual polish frayed. I messed up, he said, his voice low. I ended the bet weeks ago. Ethan, I meant what I said. I love you. The words I'd once craved now felt hollow. I saw through him, saw the desperation in his eyes. Not for me, but for absolution. You don't love me, I said, my voice steady. You love the idea of winning me back. But I'm not a prize. Lucas. I walked away, my heart pounding but lighter. When I got back to Noah, waiting at a nearby bench, he didn't ask what happened. He just opened his arms, and I let myself fall into them. The first real hug I'd felt in months. His heartbeat was steady against mine, and for once, I didn't feel like I was falling apart. That night, I sketched Noah's kind eyes, his quiet strength, knowing I was starting to feel something new. Not love, not yet, but trust. And that was enough for now. Fall swept into Brooklyn, painting the streets with crimson and gold. But my heart was still navigating its own seasons. Noah and I were spending more time together, movie nights at his tiny apartment, walks through the Botanic Garden, moments that felt like stepping stones to something real. But Lucas's shadow lingered. Not in my heart, but in the doubts he'd planted. Could I trust my feelings again? One night, Noah invited me to a hospital fundraiser. A low-key event with string lights and cheap wine. I want you to see what I do, he said, his smile shy but proud. The room was filled with nurses, doctors, and patients' families, all sharing stories of survival and hope. Noah was in his element, shaking hands, laughing, but always glancing back to make sure I was okay. A patient's mother approached us, her eyes glistening. You saved my son, she told Noah, gripping his hand. You stayed with him when I couldn't. Noah ducked his head, embarrassed. But I saw the truth. He wasn't just a nurse, it was a lifeline. Later, as we walked home, I asked, how do you do it? Care so much without burning out. He shrugged, his breath visible in the chilly air. You focus on the person in front of you, one at a time, like I did with you. His words hit deep, reminding me of that rainy night, his hand in mine. I started volunteering at the hospital, partly to be near Noah, partly to find purpose. I'd sit with patients, read to kids, or just listen to their stories. It was small, but it made me feel like I was giving back, like I could be more than my pain. Noah would join me when his shifts allowed, and we'd share quiet moments in the break room, stealing bites of vending machine snacks. One day, I got a call from my mom. She'd heard about the gallery show and wanted to see my work. "I'm proud of you, Ethan," she said, her voice thick with emotion. It was the first time we'd talked about my art, about me, without the weight of my dad's absence. I cried after we hung up, and Noah found me in the hospital courtyard, sketching to calm my nerves. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside me. I nodded, showing him the sketch a tree with roots deep in the ground, branches reaching for the sky. "It's my mom," I said. "She's trying. And so am I." Noah smiled, his hand brushing mine, and I didn't pull away. But Lucas wasn't done. He showed up at the coffee shop one morning, his face drawn. "I'm coming out to my family," he said, like it was a gift he was offering me. "I want you to be there." I stared at him, the boy who'd turned my heart into a game, and felt nothing but pity. "That's your journey, Lucas," I said. "Not mine." His face fell, but I walked away, my shift waiting. That night, I told Noah, expecting him to cheer, but he just listened, his eyes searching mine. "You're healing," he said softly. "I can see it." And for the first time, I believed him. My sketches were selling now, small but steady, and I was planning a solo show. Noah was my biggest supporter, helping me frame pieces, brainstorming titles. He never asked for anything, but I was starting to want to give him everything. One night, as we sat on his couch, I leaned in and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, but real. His smile afterward was brighter than any city skyline. The kiss with Noah changed everything, like a color I'd never seen before splashed across my world. It wasn't just attraction, it was trust, fragile but growing, rooted in every moment he'd shown me who he was. We didn't rush, didn't label it, but we were something now, something that felt like home. Winter settled over New York, blanketing the city in quiet snow. Noah and I spent our days off exploring ice skating in Central Park, browsing bookstores, sharing hot chocolate under Christmas lights. He'd tease me about my terrible balance, and I'd laugh, my breath fogging the air, feeling lighter than I had in months. My solo show was set for January, and the pressure was mounting. I'd poured everything into its sketches of the city, of pain, of healing. Noah helped me hang the pieces, his steady hands calming my nerves. "This is you, Ethan," he said, stepping back to admire a drawing of the Brooklyn Bridge, its cables like threads holding my heart together. "This is your story." The night of the show, the gallery was packed. Friends, strangers, even my mom, who'd taken a train from upstate. She hugged me, her eyes wet, and whispered, "Your dad would have been proud, even if he couldn't say it." Her words healed a wound I'd carried too long, and I held her tight, grateful for her effort. Noah stood by my side, his presence a quiet strength. The crowd loved my work, and by the end of the night, half the pieces had sold. But the real victory was standing there, surrounded by people who saw me, not as a bet or a failure, but as an artist, as Ethan. Then Lucas walked in. I froze. my hand tightening around Noah's. Lucas looked different, thinner, less polished, like the weight of his choices was finally catching up. He approached, his eyes pleading. I came out, he said. It was hell, but I did it. I want another chance. Ethan. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with tension. Noah stepped closer, his shoulder brushing mine. But he didn't speak. He didn't need Tohi's presence was enough. I looked at Lucas, at the boy who'd broken me, and saw someone lost, chasing redemption he hadn't earned. You don't get another chance, I said, my voice calm but firm. I'm not your second act, Lucas. I'm my own story now. His face crumpled, but I didn't waver. He left without a word, and the weight I'd carried for months dissolved into the snowy night. Noah pulled me into a hug, his breath warm against my ear. You're incredible, he whispered, and I believed him. We danced in the gallery's back room, just the two of us, to a song only we could hear. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. More sales, an offer to teach an art workshop, a future I could finally see. Noah and I grew closer, our kisses deeper, our dreams intertwined. But I wasn't naive anymore. I knew love wasn't a cure, but a choice, one I was making with open eyes. One night, as snow fell outside, I showed Noah a new sketch, two hands clasped, one steady, one trembling. This is us, I said, my voice soft. He smiled, his eyes bright with something that looked like forever. I like us, he said, and pulled me close. Spring arrived, thawing the city and my heart. Noah and I were official now, a couple in every sense, though we didn't need the label to feel it. We'd cook dinner in his cramped kitchen, laughing over burnt pasta, or sit on his fire escape, sharing dreams under the stars. He was my safe place, but I was learning to be my own, too. My art was taking off, galleries were calling, and I'd quit the coffee shop to focus on painting full-time. It was terrifying, leaving the safety of routine. But Noah's belief in me made it possible. You're meant for this, he'd say, and I was starting to believe it. But healing isn't linear. Some days, Lucas's betrayal crept back, a whisper of doubt asking if I was enough. Noah sensed it, always, and he'd pull me close, reminding me of the strength I'd built. You're not that guy anymore, he'd say, and I'd nod, sketching to quiet the noise. One afternoon, I got a letter, not from Lucas, but from his sister, Mia. She'd found my art online and wrote to apologize. He's struggling, she said. He knows what he did was wrong. I didn't reply, but the letter gave me closure I hadn't realized I needed. Lucas wasn't my villain anymore, was just a person, flawed and human, like me. I started volunteering more at the hospital, teaching art to kids in the pediatric wing. Their laughter, their resilience, reminded me of what mattered. Noah would join when he could, his scrubs swapped for a t-shirt splattered with paint. We'd sit with the kids, drawing superheroes and dream houses, and I'd catch him watching me, his eyes soft with pride. One evening, as we cleaned up after a session, a boy named Jamie gave me a drawing, a stick figure version of me and Noah, holding hands under a rainbow. You guys are happy, he said, and my throat tightened. Noah squeezed my shoulder, and we hung the drawing in his apartment, a reminder of the joy we were building. My mom visited again, this time meeting Noah. She hugged him, tears in her eyes, and said, "Thank you for taking care of my boy." Noah blushed, but I saw the way his smile grew. Later, he told me he'd never felt so welcomed, and I realized we were building a family, not just a relationship. But life wasn't perfect. Noah's long shifts left him exhausted, and I struggled with the insecurity of my new career. We argued sometimes small things, like dishes or missed plans, but we always talked it through, our hands finding each other in the dark. One night, I took Noah to the diner where we'd met, the place where he'd saved me in more ways than one. I gave him a sketchbook filled with drawings of you's very moment. From that rainy night to now, you changed my life, I said, my voice shaking. I love you. He kissed me, his lips soft and sure, and said, I love you, too, Ethan. Always will. The words weren't a promise of perfection, but of effort, of choosing each other every day. And that was more than enough. A year after that rainy night, I stood in a new gallery, my biggest show yet. The walls were alive with my paintings' vibrant cityscapes, quiet moments of healing, portraits of Noah's steady hands. The crowd buzzed with energy, and I felt like I was finally where I belonged. Noah was there, of course, his arm around me as we mingled. My mom came, too, her smile brighter than I'd ever seen. Sarah brought half the coffee shop crew, their cheers louder than the critics. The night was a celebration, not just of my art, but of the life I'd rebuilt from the ashes of Lucas's bet. I'd heard Lucas had moved to Chicago, chasing a new job, a new life. I wished him well, silently, but he was a chapter I'd closed. My story was here, with Noah, with the people who'd lifted me up when I couldn't stand alone. After the show, Noah and I walked through Brooklyn, the city humming around us. We stopped at the bench where I'd collapsed that night, now dry under a clear sky. I traced the carved words I'd imagined for the poster. A bet broke his heart, but kindness rebuilt it and realized they were true. You saved me, I told Noah, my voice steady. He shook his head, his eyes warm. You saved yourself, Ethan. I just held your hand. But it was more than that. His kindness had been a mirror, showing me my own strength, my own worth. We sat on the bench, our hands entwined, and I thought about the journey, the pain, the healing, the love that had grown in the cracks. I wasn't just a bet anymore. I was an artist, a partner, a son, a friend. I was enough. The city stretched out before us, its lights a map of possibilities. Noah leaned his head on my shoulder, and I knew, no matter what came next, we'd face it together. My heart, once broken, was whole again, not perfect, but stronger for it. And as the stars blinked above, I felt something I hadn't in years, peace.